I'm Janice Hossager. After 3 decades in the marketing business and many years of being an entrepreneur, I've learned a thing or two about marketing. Join me as we talk about marketing, small business, and life in between. Welcome to My Weekly Marketing. How many email messages have you received this week? Now let me ask, how many of those do you actually remember? All of these emails are easy to send and easy to ignore and sadly easy to forget. But once in a while, you get something different, a handwritten note, and you stop and you read it and you remember it and you might even keep it. So here's the question. In a world where everything is automated, how does being more human actually give you an advantage? That's what we're talking about today. I'm talking with David Wachs, founder of Handwritten, a company that's helping businesses rethink how they connect in a very noisy, very digital world. And we're getting into what this actually looks like for small businesses. How to use something as simple as a handwritten note to build relationships, stand out, and yes, even drive sales. Here's my talk with David. Hey, David, welcome to My Weekly Marketing.
Hi, Janice. Thanks so much for having me.
So handwritten notes are actually kind of near and dear to my heart for a couple of reasons. First, in marketing, a lot of people tend to follow the crowd. I think it's something we all learned in middle school, unfortunately. But that's not what gets you noticed in marketing, right? So I love that this is a little bit unusual or a little bit different than what the masses are doing. And the second reason I like this topic is because like a year or so ago, I started doing follow-up with handwritten notes to clients and potential clients and people that, that I talked to that didn't end up buying from me.
Yeah.
And it really made an impact. So why does something like that have such an impact, like a handwritten note? What happens psychologically when somebody receives a note?
Absolutely. So I think handwritten notes today are more valuable than ever because nobody's sending them. We've moved to this completely digital world where everything from your photo album and your record collection, which used to sit proudly on your bookshelf or under your stereo system, were real. Now everything is digital, and we are very much sensory deprived. And I think using the sense of feel in addition to the sense of sight, you've basically doubled your number of senses right there. But on top of that, I think so that would have been my answer 5 years ago. But my answer today is nobody thinks electronic communication is real anymore because they assume it was just done through ChatGPT or Claude or
Right.
Copilot or whatever, Gemini, pick your poison. So, but they don't realize a handwritten note, or they don't think a handwritten note can be automated, let alone have the content inside of it be automated too. So I think it really stands out from that perspective. If you think about your own email inbox, and we're all getting 135 emails a day and spending 25% of our day just managing our inbox and all these other stats, when you get a handwritten note, you're only getting between 1 and 3 of those a month. So unlike the 135 emails a day, it's nice to stand out in the 1 to 3 a month. And before you might have said this before you were talking. Oh, no, I said it on the show. Everybody goes along with the pack and does what everybody else does, but none of that stands out. I believe that's called the Van Rostorff effect, where it's the thing that stands out is the thing that gets remembered, which is like the most obvious thing out there. But handwritten notes very much are that. And then finally, if I had to wrap it up here, I'd say handwritten notes get so much value because they are durable. And what I mean by that is when you receive a handwritten note, even if you hated it, you probably threw it on your desk and instead of because you're too lazy to throw it in the trash. So there it sits on your desk for weeks on end, receiving impression after impression. And more than likely you didn't hate it. More than likely you found it to be very thoughtful that somebody sent you a handwritten note. And that's what we see over and over again. Our client, I'll give you a small solopreneur example. We have a piano tuner in Pennsylvania. He's in your home only once a year. Your piano only needs to be tuned once a year. So he tunes your piano, then he has an automation set up through us to send out a handwritten note afterwards, thanking the client for the opportunity to enter their home and tune the piano. When he returns to that house a year later, that handwritten note is not only there, but it's standing on top of the piano. So it's been open, it's been read, and it's been put on display in an area that's typically reserved for graduation photos and that type of thing. So it's just an incredibly powerful way to get in front of clients these days that really nobody's taking advantage of.
Love it. Did you when did you discover that this was, like, such a superpower and start a business around it? Like, what is your story of
Yeah.
how you get to this point?
So prior to Handwritten, which is Handwrytten, the company I run now, I ran a company called Sell It, which was a text messaging company, and we send out a million texts a day just for Abercrombie and Fitch or Toys R Us, these big
Mhm,
brands. And I realized that while we were sending a million texts a day and they were working, and they were opt-in, they weren't spam. I don't want anybody to
mm,
think I was spamming, but they were working. I realized everybody was also getting a million texts a day, or at least felt like they were. And I saw that at some point this would all become digital fatigue and they'd burn out from it. And I think that's really happening. So back in 2014, I sold that text messaging company. I wanted to say thank you to my clients and to my employees. And I sat down with pen and paper because I knew that when I received a handwritten note, I held on to it. So I sat down with best intentions of writing handwritten notes. And after about number 5, my hand cramped and I ran out of stationery and I didn't have enough stamps and my pen, all the things, right? So that's where the idea came from. And I really built Handwritten to be a product or a service that I would use. For example, we include gift cards. You can add a Starbucks gift card or an Amazon card or something
mhm,
like that to your order. You can even include your business card if you store them with us. So I really tried to design this as a service that I would use, and that's where we are 12 years later.
mm. Very very forward thinking of you for sure, because I remember when texting became a thing and we would always say, oh, the open rate is like 100%, which it was
Hmm.
at that time. Now I get, I don't know how many a day around election time.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, it's just gotten ridiculous. And I hate it,
Yep.
I love that you kind of saw the light early on and kind of moved into it before the masses did. So, where would this fit? Now, so I talk about something I call the trail to the sale. It's really like what you do every step of the way on your customer journey map, right?
Yeah.
So, where does that fit in that? Where does it fit in the customer journey map? Is it like in the awareness stage or consideration, or where is it that a handwritten note is really the most powerful?
Yeah, I'd say for B2B or even high ticket B2C, it could be in the consideration step. You've met with this person, everybody else, it's a real differentiator for you because everybody else that met with them might shoot them a text or an email and you sent them a handwritten note.
Hmm.
So as long as there's enough time for a good old snail mail to deliver, and in most cases there is, then yeah, I'd consider that because it creates a nice touch point. In addition to an email or a text, it's always great because those are free. And so you'd send the handwritten note there. It's also really very powerful post purchase.
Hmm.
So I love the trail to the sale, by the way. I hope you don't mind if I steal that from you. But maybe after the sale, we have to come up with a rhyme there too, because it's really valuable for ongoing lifetime value of that customer and building loyalty. And on our website, excuse me, you can request the consumer outreach survey. We polled 2,000 consumers, not handwritten users, just consumers, and we asked them a bunch of questions such as, do you feel appreciated by brands? And they said no. In fact, they said in 2025, only 12% of consumers feel appreciated by brands. And this was down from 2023, where it was 18%. So it went down actually by a third over that short time period. And then we said, okay, well, if you did feel appreciated by brands, what would you do? And they said they'd buy more, they'd rate and review more, they'd buy more frequently, and they'd tell their friends, like basically everything you'd want. And
Hmm.
then we said, okay, what would make you feel appreciated? And I bet you could guess that the answer over a text and a phone call and a junk mail piece was a handwritten note, of course. So,
Hmm.
it's a really great way to build ongoing loyalty with your customers after the sale. It's sometimes too expensive to do on, like you said, awareness. It can be very expensive for
Yeah.
awareness because the cost of a stamp alone is 78 cents. But for consideration, it's a great use tactic. And then also post purchase follow up and loyalty, it's excellent.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those. And actually, I do include the post sale in my framework for sure. It's sale, supersize, serve, and then send. It's a send
Mm,
being referral. And I think
yeah.
in that serve stage, it's nice to do some sort of an outreach. Probably not a maybe not a letter for that part of it because you're helping that customer adapt to what they just purchased, but just somewhere in that area to say, I'm going to take the time to really thank you and show you that I really do appreciate your business because that really, we all want to be appreciated, right?
hmm Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And people ask me, what do I put in that note? And they want to put QR codes and coupon codes and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But as soon as you start layering all that in, it's not really a thank you note anymore. It's an advertisement.
Yeah.
And you're more than welcome to do that. I'm stealing this from Brittany Hodak, if you know her. She wrote a book called Creating Superfans, and she basically says the best swag or the best thank you notes don't mention anything about the brand. And I really agree with that. I think I call it a full stop thank you. You're just saying thank you. You're not asking for anything, at least in that first one. Maybe follow up later and say, ask for a rating and review or referral or whatever. But you're just simply saying thank you because everybody has a million choices these days and they chose you out of all those million choices.
Mhm.
So I think there's a real place for just a genuine thank you. And just being genuine these days and saying thank you will set you way apart from everybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
people have such a entitlement mentality where they're like, "Yeah, of course you chose me. Why wouldn't you choose me?" Well, guess what? There's other options out there.
Yeah.
Whether it's another purchase that sells the same service, or I could go to Upwork and have that service made for me, or I could go to Claude and have that service vibe coded for me. There's a million options. So the fact that they chose you really need to recognize that.
Are there any other mistakes that you see people make when they try this out?
Yeah, I think getting too verbose.
Mm.
We are 12 years into the program and we just started allowing letters. Before that, it was all handwritten notes because handwritten notes are short and letters are long. We finally gave in and allowed people to write these overly verbose letters, but I wouldn't. I'd keep it real short. We allow up to 500 characters. I'd say keep it at 300, 350. When people open, we live in the Twitter generation where everything is 160 characters or less. So I would say keep your notes short to so that you're not going to overwhelm them with the novel that is 500 characters or whatever. And it really doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be genuine. So I'd say keep it short. I'd also say do it right away. Don't wait a month to send out that handwritten
Mhm.
note. It
Mhm.
makes a great touch point. And as soon as you wait a month, they're going to forget about you.
Yeah.
So do it right away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think any kind of thank you has to be done right away.
Mhm.
It's amazing to me, even where I've interviewed a lot of people for jobs, and maybe 1 out of 10 will even reach back out on LinkedIn and say thank you. I mean, so it really is kind of a forgotten art, the art of saying thank you, that I do appreciate you. So I love that you are like providing a path for that. So at a certain point, this becomes kind of hard to manage where they would
Mhm.
contact someone like you, right? So
Yeah.
how is it that your business does this?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for bringing that up because like I'm here really to talk about the value of a handwritten note that's
Mhm.
handwritten with an I, something you sit down and write with pen and paper. But if you get to the point where you can't handwrite them anymore, after you see the value in them, then yeah, work with a company like Handwritten to do it. And there's a few different companies out there. But the way we do it is we have 200 robots they're sitting in a on shelves in a room. If you find me on Instagram. You can see many videos about this. They're sitting on shelves in a room and they're writing out notes 24/7. And then each of those robots, what's different about handwritten over our competition is we've built a whole process, not a robot. Yes, we built the robot. We built the best robot. We built the first robot, et cetera, et cetera. We have the most robots. We send the most notes. But on top of it, there's a process there. So after your note is written, we actually built our own computer vision system to look at the note and ensure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed and everything looks excellent. And then we we cut off the tracking code that we put on that note to track it through the process. And we're able to magically track it without getting into our secret sauce, without any noticeable marks on the document, into an envelope, and then out of through an automated insertion machine. And then we take that blank envelope, blank in quotes, and we write the address on the outside of the envelope so that there's never a misstuff. We
Mhm.
used to do it by writing on the card, writing on the envelope, and stuffing. But, as you grow, you have to figure out better ways. So we actually the card, stuff it in a quote unquote blank envelope, and then write on the blank envelope. So that's kind of how Handwritten does it. We have our own process there. But everything goes out within 24 to 48 hours. You can go on our website and for no additional fee, create your own card design. So you can put your logo or a picture of your team or a picture of the customer, whatever that is, and then we just print it, write it, send it out on your behalf with a real stamp. So everything looks really, really very authentic.
Okay, that was gonna be my question because we've all received those letters that looks like they've been handwritten,
Yeah,
but then you look a little closer and you're like, "Oh, see that E there looks just like the E
yeah.
there," and, is that is it discernible or is it really just that it looks like somebody actually wrote it?
So I'll be honest, we vary the letters. So,
Okay,
E's throughout the document will be different. E's at the end of a word will be different than E's at the beginning of a word. We vary the left margin so
okay.
that it doesn't look like you wrote down a hard edge because people don't do that. We vary the line spacing so it doesn't look like you wrote on lined paper when you didn't.
Hmm,
We do all these little things. If I sent you one, and I should have before this podcast, I apologize. If I sent you one and I called you and I said, "Did you receive the card I sent you?" You'd say, "Yes, thank you so much." If I sent you one and I say, "Did you notice the card was written by a robot?" You're then going to put it under a different level of scrutiny.
right, yeah,
The notes we have are so good that you really have to cue the person by asking them that question, and then maybe they'll get it. But a lot of the handwriting styles we have nowadays, you see them being written all day, every day, and I don't know they're written by a robot.
mm,
So it really just depends on the handwriting style and if your client knows you sent them an automated handwritten note, but they're not going to
yeah,
know that, so you should be
yeah.
good.
Oh, really, really interesting. Have you seen this actually lead to revenue? Like, do you have any
Absolutely.
any case studies where kind of there was a before and after so you could measure the ROI of something like this?
Yeah. So what I'll say is a lot of our clients do not share we, unless they use a
Yeah.
QR code on the card, we're kind of out of the loop because
Yeah,
it's
I
really like,
understand.
it's not like an email where you click it. So we don't get a lot of the data. That said, what I can tell you is we have been in like that example of the piano tuner that generates great brand recognition and repeat service calls year after year. We work with car dealerships in there, they do a lot of print mail, printed letters asking you to come in, trade up your car, come back to the dealership to do that. When they switch those with handwritten notes, they see a 27 times greater response rate. Not
Wow.
27%, 27 times. So it's like
Wow.
2,700% greater response rate. We work with a suit bespoke online suit maker. So you go,
Mm,
you get out your tape measure and you measure yourself, and then you upload your measurements on the website and have a suit made. And every year they send out a coupon code to their best clients. And those coupons have like an 18% redemption rate, which they say is about 3 times what they usually get. Now, granted, you're paying a lot more because you have to ship all those cards out, but it's really about the ongoing loyalty, not so much the coupon code. Um, we work with a lot of nonprofits, and they say absolutely with every campaign they do, they're able to generate a 30% ROI on additional donations. So
mm,
they're seeing great results on nonprofits. So it really depends on your use case.
mm.
Like with these car dealerships, okay, so after I buy a car, I get an automated handwritten note thanking me for my purchase. Because I get that handwritten note, I'm not going to run out and buy another car. You're playing the long game,
Yeah.
and people have to be aware of that in any sort of marketing they're doing, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Okay, a few rapid fire questions
Sure.
here. All right, one sentence that every note should include.
I'd say thank you.
Okay.
I think thank you so much or I really appreciate your business, something like that. I think that appreciation is gone in today's society. And I could go, that's one thing. Everybody's asking me what's the ROI of a thank you note. I'm thinking ROI of a thank you note. You need to take a look in the mirror. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Well, some of us have marketing in the brain, so, it's
I
like
know.
it's a
I
constant
know.
question. Okay, is there a situation where you should not send a handwritten note?
We do a lot of list scrubbing, like for nonprofits. We'll invite people to conference or to fundraising events and that type of thing. And they'll, right before the event, they'll send us a suppression list because that person died and you don't want to be seen as insensitive.
Yes.
So there is that, but that goes for all forms of marketing. I think with handwritten notes, it's just a little bit more sensitive because they thought you actually sat down to write it. So we
Yeah.
have to be wary of that. I don't think we're talking, you don't want to overdo it with this channel. So unlike emails that you can pump out daily, handwritten notes, you're talking like for a year. So
Mm,
you want to keep your cadence of like, thank you for your purchase or thank you for your donation. Maybe one special offer or invite. We want to welcome you to a special sale or use this for free shipping, whatever that is, maybe a birthday card and a holiday card. Those are really the four touch points. We don't think you should burn people out on handwritten notes, if that makes sense.
is there a time when digital still wins?
Oh, absolutely. I think that you need to have a holistic content strategy to cover all cases of the person. And I have this 4C thing that I created, but the contact you're trying to reach out to, the content you're trying to send them, then you have to determine the channel and the cadence.
Mm,
So, if you're sending your order's just been mailed, or let's go crazier, your flight's been delayed. I certainly wouldn't put
oh,
your flight
yeah.
been delayed on a handwritten note and send in the mail. You might want to say, we're so sorry your flight was delayed and we hope your trip wasn't ruined, and then put that in the mail. But you have to be considerate of the delivery time and the urgency and all the rest. So I think absolutely there's for these transactional types of messages, I don't think a handwritten note is the way to go. But for that genuine loyalty building experience or post post customer service experience, I think it's a great touch point.
100% agree. All right, David, where can people find out more about you and Handwritten?
Yeah, handwritten.com. It's handwrytten.com is the best place. Then if you want to see my ongoing rantings as well as the robots, you can follow Handwritten Notes, handwryttens, or Handwritten Notes on Instagram too. But I post pretty much daily on the topic.
Nice. I'll put those all in the show notes for today. All
Thank you.
right. Thanks so much for joining me today, David. I love it. I love the topic, and I'm excited to get my pen and my little crane's notes out to send some
Yes.
more.
Good. Good for you. Good for you. Thank you.
I hope this got you thinking about some ways that you can use handwritten notes in your business too. For more information about David and anything we talked about today, visit myweeklymarketing.com/154. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.